My beloved child, stop scrolling and listen closely, because the person your heart has never fully forgotten is preparing to return to your life, but something is standing between their decision and your door. This is not a passing thought they will forget tomorrow. They have already imagined the first moment they see you again. They have practiced the words they want to say, erased countless messages, and silently wondered whether your eyes would still recognize the love they once failed to express. But don't skip, because their return is connected to a surprising truth you were never meant to discover this way. While you believed they had moved forward without looking back, they were comparing every new place, every conversation, and every quiet evening to what they once shared with you. Nothing felt the same. They smiled when others were watching, but when the noise disappeared, your memory returned with a force they could no longer ignore. Then something happened, something so unexpected that it changed the direction of their heart in a single moment. They found an old reminder of you hidden among things they had not touched for a long time. It may have been a photograph, a message, a small gift, or something ordinary that carried an extraordinary memory. The instant they held it, every feeling they had tried to control came rushing back. They remembered your kindness, the way you understood their silence, and the warmth they once treated as though it would always be available. That was when they finally whispered the truth they had refused to admit: I still belong with them. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate is no longer asking whether they should return. Deep inside, that decision has already been made. The real question is whether they will find the courage to cross the final distance. They have started preparing in quiet ways. They are changing old habits, closing unfinished chapters, and thinking carefully about how to approach you without repeating the mistakes that created this separation. Yet every time they move closer, one thought makes them stop: they believe you may no longer want them. They have mistaken your silence for rejection. They have interpreted your strength as proof that you have forgotten them. And the most shocking part is that someone helped place that belief inside their mind. What happened next changed everything. A person your soulmate trusted spoke about you with great confidence, as though they understood your heart. They said you had moved on, that you would never listen, and that returning would only reopen a door you had already closed. Your soulmate wanted to reject those words, but uncertainty made them hesitate. They began replaying the last conversation between you, searching for hidden meanings in every sentence. They remembered the moments when you seemed distant, but they did not understand that you were protecting a heart that had already waited too long. They saw the wall, but they never saw the love behind it. Don't skip, because this is where the problem becomes deeper. Your soulmate has prepared an honest confession, but they are afraid it may arrive one moment too late. They want to tell you that leaving did not bring them peace. Distance only taught them what your presence truly meant. They want you to know that the connection was never ordinary and that every attempt to replace it only made its value clearer. But before they can speak, they feel they need a sign that you will not immediately turn away. Something huge is waiting for you, because that sign may come from an event neither of you can arrange. A familiar song, an unexpected meeting, a name appearing at the perfect moment, or a mutual connection mentioning you without knowing what is unfolding could reopen the path. Your soulmate has already come closer than you realize. They may have searched for your name, returned to a place linked to your memories, or quietly asked someone whether you are doing well. They are trying to discover whether your heart still holds even the smallest space for them. Yet they are hiding these actions because they do not want anyone to see how deeply this decision affects them. On the outside, they appear calm. Inside, they are standing at the edge of a once-in-a-lifetime choice. They know that if they remain silent, they may lose the one connection that made them feel truly seen. But if they return, they must finally become honest about everything. Their fear, their delay, and the real reason they walked away. That reason is not what you were led to believe. It was never because you were unworthy. It was never because their feelings disappeared. They stepped away because the depth of this bond awakened emotions they did not know how to carry. You saw possibility, they saw the risk of losing something irreplaceable. And instead of moving closer, they tried to protect themselves by creating distance. Now that distance has become the very thing they regret. Stay till the end, because the final detail changes the entire meaning of their return. Your soulmate is not preparing to come back merely to apologize. They are preparing to ask whether the two of you can build something new, something more honest than what existed before. They do not want to return with empty promises. They want to show you that separation taught them patience, responsibility, and the value of speaking before silence creates confusion. But the problem remains: the person who told them you had moved on is still influencing their decision, and your soulmate is beginning to suspect that this person did not tell the full truth. A small contradiction has appeared. Something they recently heard about you does not match the story they were given. Now they are looking back at past conversations and realizing that certain details may have been shaped to keep the two of you apart. Don't skip. Your answer is closer than you think. Your soulmate has begun questioning everything, and once they uncover the missing piece, hesitation may turn into immediate action. The message they have saved but not sent could finally reach you. The journey they have considered could finally begin. The confession they have repeated in private could finally be spoken directly to you. Yet when that moment comes, you will also face a choice. Their return will not ask you to forget your growth or ignore what happened. It will ask whether the connection deserves a truthful conversation. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next movement in this story will reveal whether your soulmate trusts the voice of fear or follows the truth they have carried all along. Even now, they are closer to choosing you than anyone around them knows. They have stopped pretending that time erased the bond. They have stopped believing that silence means the story is over. And somewhere nearby lies the proof that you never rejected them in the way they were told. When they find it, the obstacle between you may begin to fall. But the person who created the misunderstanding has one final thing left to say, and those words could either delay your soulmate's return or send them directly toward you. The truth arrived in a way your soulmate never expected. The person who had been discouraging them from returning finally spoke again, but this time their words did not sound protective. They sounded afraid. They said, "You should leave the past alone. They do not need you anymore." Yet when your soulmate asked how they could possibly know what was inside your heart, there was no clear answer. Only hesitation. Only a sudden change of subject. Only a silence that revealed more than any confession could have revealed. At that moment, your soulmate understood that something important had been kept from them. Don't skip, because what they discovered next made every previous conversation look different. They remembered a message they had once asked this person to deliver to you, a message that explained why they had pulled away and promised that their silence was temporary. Your soulmate had spent all this time believing you received it and chose not to respond. But now they have learned that the message may never have reached you. Imagine the weight of that realization. The separation they accepted as your decision may have been built upon words you never heard. The rejection they carried may never have happened. Your soulmate went back through old dates, forgotten conversations, and tiny details that once seemed meaningless. Suddenly, everything connected. The day they expected your answer was the same day someone told them you wanted space. The moment they prepared to approach you was the moment they were assured that you had closed your heart. Whenever they moved toward you, another voice convinced them to stop. But something has changed now. They are no longer listening without questioning. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate has found the first piece of proof, an old message from you that contradicts everything they were told. In that message, you were not closing the door. You were waiting for honesty. You were asking for clarity. You were giving them an opportunity they never knew existed. When they read your words, their hands became still and the room around them seemed to disappear. They finally understood that while they were waiting for you, you may have been waiting for them. Two hearts stood on opposite sides of the same silence, each believing the other had chosen to leave. But the missing message is not the only problem. Your soulmate is now carrying a truth about their own choices that they can no longer hide. Even if someone influenced them, they know they allowed fear to make the final decision. They could have contacted you directly. They could have asked one honest question. They could have trusted what they felt instead of accepting what they were told. This realization has made their planned return far more serious. They know they cannot appear in your life with excuses and expect everything to become easy. They must take responsibility. They must tell you why they stayed away, what they believed, and what they have discovered. Don't skip, because they have already begun writing the words they want you to hear. The message starts simply, "I believed something about you that was never true." They have written and erased the next sentence many times because it contains the confession they once thought they would never make. They want to tell you that no amount of distance made the connection disappear. They want to admit that they looked for traces of you in unfamiliar faces and still felt the absence of the one person who understood them without demanding a performance. They want to say that your place in their heart was never replaced, it was only hidden beneath pride, confusion, and unfinished healing. Yet just as they prepared to send those words, another unexpected event interrupted them. Someone mentioned that your life might be changing soon. Perhaps an opportunity is taking you somewhere new, perhaps another person has noticed your worth, or perhaps you have simply reached the point where waiting no longer feels right. Your soulmate heard this and realized that time is not standing still for them. For the first time, the possibility of truly missing their chance became real. Something huge is waiting for you, because this did not make them retreat. It awakened them. They began preparing to act instead of merely imagining. They chose what they would wear, rehearsed how they would begin the conversation, and considered the place where you might feel comfortable listening. They even held the object connected to your shared memory and decided to bring it as proof that they never discarded what the two of you had. But then they received one final message from the person who had tried to keep them away: "Before you go back, there is something about the separation you still do not know." That single sentence stopped your soulmate just before they were ready to move. Not because their decision had changed, but because they sensed the hidden truth was larger than one undelivered message. Stay till the end. The person who stood between you is connected to a promise made long ago, a promise your soulmate never knew existed. This person believed that keeping you apart would prevent an old family conflict, protect a reputation, or preserve a plan that had nothing to do with what either of you wanted. They convinced themselves they were preventing confusion, but their interference created the very heartbreak they claimed to avoid. Now that the truth is beginning to surface, they fear losing your soulmate's trust. They have asked for one private meeting before the return happens, and your soulmate has agreed, but only for one reason: they want every hidden detail before they stand before you. They refuse to let another half-truth follow them into your life. Don't skip, because your soulmate entered that meeting expecting an explanation and heard your name within the first few seconds. Then an item was placed in front of them, something that had belonged to you, something they believed was gone, something that proved you had tried to reach them more than once. Your soulmate stared at it in complete disbelief. It carried a date, and that date changed the entire timeline. You had reached out before they walked away. You had offered the truth before anyone told them you had stopped caring. The evidence had been hidden because someone feared that if your soulmate saw it, they would choose you immediately. And they were right. The moment your soulmate touched that forgotten piece of your story, the last wall inside them began to fall. They stood up before the private meeting was finished and said, "Nothing you tell me now will keep me from speaking to them myself. Something huge is waiting for you." Your soulmate is coming closer, no longer guided by rumors or fear, but one final complication remains. The proof they found contains a line written by you, a line so personal that it brought every buried emotion back to the surface. It reveals what you truly wanted at the time of your separation, but beneath it is another sentence written in someone else's handwriting. Your soulmate has seen that handwriting before. They know exactly who it belongs to. And the person who wrote it is someone neither of you ever suspected. The handwriting belonged to the one person your soulmate had trusted more than anyone else, the person who had repeatedly promised to help bring the two of you back together. For a moment, your soulmate could not speak. They held the forgotten piece of your story closer, studying every word, hoping they had mistaken the familiar style. But there was no mistake. The same person who had comforted them during the separation had secretly written beneath your message, "Do not give this to them. They have already chosen another path." That one sentence had redirected everything. Your soulmate remembered how this person always appeared at the exact moment they considered contacting you. They would listen patiently, offer gentle advice, and then convince them to wait a little longer. What looked like concern was actually delay. What sounded like protection was quietly feeding uncertainty. Don't skip, because the reason behind this interference was not jealousy, and it was not because you had done anything wrong. The truth was connected to a major decision your soulmate's family had made without consulting them. A future had already been planned, a new place, a demanding responsibility, and a path that would keep them tied to expectations they never freely chose. The family knew that if your soulmate understood how deeply you still cared, they might choose a life built around love instead of obligation. You were not seen as the problem, your influence was. You reminded your soulmate that they had a voice. You made them believe they could choose happiness without asking everyone else for permission. And that frightened the people who had grown comfortable making decisions for them. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate finally realized that the separation was never simply between two people who failed to understand each other. Other voices had entered the space between you, turning pauses into rejection and uncertainty into false conclusions. But now the illusion had broken. Your soulmate looked directly at the person who arranged the meeting and asked, "How long have you known?" The answer came slowly, "From the beginning." Those 3 words changed the atmosphere completely. Your soulmate learned that you had sent more than one message. You had asked whether they were okay. You had tried to explain your silence. You had even offered to meet them face to face. None of it reached them. Every attempt was hidden beneath the same excuse, that keeping you apart was best for everyone. But no one had asked what was best for you. For the first time, your soulmate did not respond with confusion. They responded with clarity. They placed the evidence carefully in front of them and said, "You did not protect me. You prevented me from knowing the truth." Then they walked away before another excuse could be offered. Outside, they opened the unfinished message they had written to you, but instead of sending it, they deleted every rehearsed line. Don't skip. They understood that ordinary words were no longer enough. After so much silence, they could not return with a message that left room for another misunderstanding. They wanted you to hear their voice. They wanted to stand before you without another person interpreting what either of you meant. So they began preparing to come back in person. They changed their plans, moved an important commitment, and set aside something they had been saving for another purpose. The return was no longer a dream. It had become a decision. Yet the problem was about to become even more complicated, because while your soulmate was discovering the truth, something in your life had started changing. You had grown tired of waiting for answers that never arrived. You had begun rebuilding the parts of yourself that once depended on their return. A new opportunity was calling you forward, and you were closer than ever to accepting it. Your soulmate learned that if they waited even a little longer, they might arrive only to find that you were no longer where they expected you to be. Something huge is waiting for you, because this news did not make them surrender. It made them move faster. They went to the place where they believed they could find you, carrying your old message and the object that had survived the separation. On the way, they repeated one sentence, "This time, I will ask them directly." But when they arrived, the place looked different. The familiar entrance was quiet. The person they expected to see was not there. For one breathless moment, your soulmate believed they had come too late. Then someone nearby recognized your name and handed them a sealed envelope. It had been left there some time ago with one instruction: it should only be given to your soulmate if they ever returned looking for you. Your soulmate held that envelope with trembling hands because your handwriting was unmistakable. Their name appeared across the front, written with the same care you once gave to every message they never received. Stay till the end, because what was inside did not simply explain the past, it revealed that part of you had always believed they would come back. The letter began, "If you are reading this, then the truth finally found its way to you." Your soulmate stopped after that first line. Every emotion they had tried to contain rose at once. You had known there was more behind the separation. You had sensed that their silence did not match the connection you shared. You had refused to believe that something meaningful could disappear without an honest conversation. But the next lines carried the truth they were most afraid to face. You explained that you could not remain frozen in the same place forever. You still cared, but you had chosen to protect your peace until they were ready to arrive with honesty. You did not ask them to chase you. You did not promise to wait without end. You simply left a path. One final chance for the truth to meet both of you at the right moment. Don't skip, because halfway through the letter, your soulmate discovered an address and a date. The address pointed to the place where you planned to begin your next chapter, and the date was closer than they expected. They now knew where to find you, but beneath the address was a sentence that made them stop. Come only if you are returning because you have chosen me, not because you are afraid of losing me. Those words reached the deepest part of your soulmate. They understood that returning was not enough. They had to come without excuses, without family pressure, and without the old fear that once controlled them. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate folded the letter, looked toward the road ahead, and made the choice everyone had once tried to prevent. They stepped away from the future others had designed for them and began moving toward the one truth they could no longer deny. But just as they were about to leave, their phone rang. The voice on the other end revealed that the address in your letter was connected to an event happening very soon, an event where you were expected to make a life-changing announcement. Your soulmate had only a small window to reach you, and what you were preparing to announce could either open the door they had crossed so much to find, or close it before they could finally speak.